Welcome to Affordable Tutor. You know, it's really amazing what's happening in tech these days, and we're diving into this collection of information about how current technology is going to change our future and, more importantly, how we can actually understand these changes. And we want to do it without you feeling like you need to go back and get another degree in computer science, right? Our goal today is to break it all down and give you the insights that really matter for you.
Absolutely. And we're going to take you on a journey through some of the most groundbreaking technology that's coming up. We're going to start by really unraveling the mysteries behind quantum computing. We're going to look at its potential, but also the practical challenges to it becoming something we use every day. And then we'll explore the exciting, immersive world of augmented and virtual reality, especially how it's changing the way we learn. We'll also delve into the growing role of AI in our workplaces and in the business world at large. And we can't forget cybersecurity in this digital age. It's more crucial than ever, right? And finally, we'll look ahead to 6G, the next generation of connectivity, and discuss why ensuring everyone has access to it is so very important.
Okay, so let's jump right in. Let's start with quantum computing. It's often hailed as this revolutionary leap beyond even the most powerful supercomputers that we have today. But what makes it so dramatically different, and why aren't we all using it already?
The thing that really stands out is just how complex it is to actually harness this incredible power. Think of classical computers as working with light switches, right? They're either on or off, representing a 0 or a 1. But quantum computers use these things called qubits, and a qubit can be on and off at the same time, and even exist in multiple states simultaneously. This is what allows them to tackle these incredibly complex calculations, the kind that would take, even the fastest supercomputers billions of years to complete. The problem is that this quantum nature also makes them incredibly fragile and prone to errors. Imagine trying to perform brain surgery, right, on a patient who's constantly shivering. That gives you an idea of just how sensitive this environment is and the error rates that scientists are up against. And this, of course, leads to really significant cost in development and maintenance and operation, which really impacts smaller organizations the hardest.
Wow, that analogy really makes it clear. So it's not even just the initial investment. It's the cost of keeping these incredibly sensitive systems running. And I imagine finding people who can even work with this technology is another huge obstacle.
You're absolutely right. The pool of experts, those who are skilled in adopting and implementing quantum computing, it's still pretty small. And then you have to consider those technical hurdles we talked about, the high error rates, the instability of the qubits, and this need for extremely low temperatures, colder than outer space, just to keep them functioning properly. It's a really huge engineering challenge.
It makes it sound like these quantum computers aren't exactly plug and play with the technology that we're already using, are they?
No, not at all. Integrating quantum computing with our current systems, our classical systems, is another massive hurdle. Plus, the lack of standardization in both hardware and software is a problem. What that means is that a quantum program designed for one machine might not be able to run on another, which makes developing widespread applications very difficult. And of course, we can't forget the security implications, right? Quantum computers have the potential to completely break the encryption methods we use today, which underpin so much of our digital security. And then for organizations thinking about, taking this leap, there's that huge question mark around when they'll actually see a return on their investment.
So it seems like there are a lot of hurdles to overcome, but this technology seems so potentially game-changing. What can organizations do to at least start exploring how they might incorporate quantum computing?
Well, the sources that we've looked at suggest they need a really strategic and deliberate approach. Investing in research and development is key. And specifically, allocating resources to really investigate what potential applications are relevant to their specific field. Collaboration is also really important. Partnering with universities, research institutions, and other companies who are maybe a bit further along in their quantum journey. That way they can gain insights and even get access to cutting-edge developments. Now, starting with small, well-defined pilot projects. That way they can test specific quantum applications in a controlled environment. And that allows for, learning and adaptation without a huge amount of risk. And finally, as with any big investment, they need to continuously monitor their return on investment and be willing to adjust their strategy as the technology evolves.
So even though these challenges are real, it seems like this field is advancing quite quickly. The information that you shared seems to point to some pretty significant progress happening in the near future.
The most exciting part is the potential for an acceleration in practical applications. So by 2025, we could be seeing some real breakthroughs, particularly in healthcare. Think development of new drugs, personalized medicine, and also in the commercial sector, and things like financial modeling and material science. Companies like the Quantum Insider, Reuters, Spinconta, and even big players like Microsoft Azure, they're all actively working on pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
And you mentioned something specific that Google announced.
Oh, yes. Google's announcement of their Willow chip back in 2024, that was a really big deal. This chip was designed to reduce the noise and minimize the errors that plague current quantum computers, which, as we discussed, are some of the major obstacles in the field. This kind of progress is a sign that the technology is maturing.
So from this world of quantum computing, let's maybe bring things a bit closer to the present and talk about AR and VR in education. It's really fascinating to think about how these technologies are changing how we learn.
It's almost like taking those static images you see in a textbook and stepping right inside them. Imagine you're in a history lesson and you're actually walking through ancient Rome, or a biology class where you can dissect a virtual heart with your own hands. That level of immersive interaction completely changes how students connect with and retain information. The sources we've looked at highlight some key benefits. Things like enhanced engagement and motivation. These immersive environments just naturally capture a student's attention, and they encourage active participation.
Oh, for sure. It's definitely going to be more engaging than just sitting and listening to a lecture. And it sounds like that leads to better memory, too.
Exactly. This kind of visualization and experiential learning, actually doing something, even if it's in a virtual space, it significantly improves how well students remember what they've learned. Another really powerful aspect is that AR and VR can actually democratize learning. They can offer these educational opportunities that might be impossible in the real world, whether it's because of safety concerns or geographical limitations.
That's such an important point, being able to bring these experiences to students that they would never have access to otherwise. And you mentioned personalized learning, too. That seems like a huge plus.
Absolutely. These technologies can be tailored to an individual student's learning pace and style, providing a much more customized learning experience. And they can also foster collaboration, where students can work together in these virtual environments, solve problems together, simulate real-world teamwork. And when it comes to developing practical skills in a safe environment, the possibilities are endless. Think surgical procedures, engineering designs, all done virtually.
So for schools and universities that are interested in using AR and VR, what are some of the essential steps that they need to take to make it happen?
Well, naturally, the first step is to invest in the technology. They need to acquire the AR and VR hardware and the necessary software to build those immersive experiences. But just having the equipment isn't enough. A really crucial part is training the educators. They need to be able to effectively integrate AR and VR into their teaching methods to really feel comfortable and confident using these new tools.
Right. The teachers need to be equipped to use these new tools to guide the learning process. And it can't just be about, using the technology for technology's sake. It has to be integrated into the curriculum. Right?
Exactly. Developing curriculum that specifically incorporates AR and VR and aligning it with learning objectives, that's essential. It's also smart to start with pilot programs. That way they can evaluate how effective these applications are and actually see the impact on learning outcomes.
Yeah.
And something that's really crucial is continuously gathering feedback from both students and educators. This allows for constant improvement and refinement of the AR and VR programs.
Now, you've already mentioned some examples of AR and VR actually being used in education today.
Yes, we're seeing some exciting implementations, across different disciplines. In medical education, for instance, students can practice these complex surgical procedures in incredibly realistic virtual operating rooms. And in classrooms, companies like Expert VR, OSF Innovation, Cognita, ClassVR, and Digital Defined are providing tools and content to enhance learning across different subjects.
It all sounds extremely promising, but are there any potential downsides or challenges that schools and universities should be aware of before they jump into AR and VR?
Of course, cost is a major barrier. Implementing these technologies does require a pretty big financial investment, not just for the initial purchase of the devices and software, but for things like maintenance, technical support, and that crucial teacher training that we talked about. There are health considerations, too. Extended use of VR in particular can cause discomfort, motion sickness, eye strain, and these things can be especially problematic for younger users. Sources like Extern Labs and Digital Defined actually highlighted these issues.
Those are definitely important things to consider. We don't want to enhance learning at the cost of causing, physical discomfort.
What about the impact on social interaction?
That's a valid point, and one of the sources raised that concern. There's a potential for over-reliance on virtual interaction, which could actually, negatively affect those real-world social connections among students. It will be really important to find that balance between these virtual learning environments and the physical ones. Another challenge is the availability of really high-quality content that's been designed specifically for AR and VR. What's currently available can be expensive, or it takes a lot of time and resources to develop.
So it sounds like the educational content needs to catch up to the technology itself. And I imagine that, technical problems could also be an issue.
Absolutely. Technical glitches, things like software bugs or hardware malfunctions, those can disrupt a lesson. It's really important to ensure that they have reliable technology and good technical support to keep things running smoothly. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about another really transformative technology: AI in the workforce. It seems like we're rapidly moving from science fiction to a world where AI is a fundamental part of how we work.
And that's a key point. From the information you've gathered, AI is already really boosting productivity in the workplace.
Right.
By automating tasks, but also by providing sophisticated data analysis, which can lead to better decisions. We're seeing big gains in efficiency as AI reshapes business processes. And this idea of AI agents that can autonomously handle specific tasks, simplifying workflows without humans having to directly intervene, that's becoming more common.
So it's less about, robots taking over jobs and more about AI working with humans and freeing us from those repetitive, mundane tasks. But the sources also emphasize the need for responsible integration.
Exactly. AI needs to be implemented thoughtfully and efficiently if we want to maximize those benefits to productivity. Sources like Deloitte, MoveWorks, Fortune, NYSS CPA, McKinsey, and the Computer Society all highlight this. It's about finding that perfect balance where AI complements human skills and expertise.
So for organizations who are looking at integrating AI, what are some practical steps they should consider?
The first thing is identifying specific areas where AI can really make a difference. So pinpointing those tasks and processes where it can boost productivity or create new value. Then they need to invest in AI solutions that really align with those needs and their organizational goals. And a really crucial step that's often overlooked is training employees, teaching them how to effectively work with these new AI tools. Just like we discussed with AR and VR, pilot programs are invaluable. That way they can test these AI applications in the real world before rolling them out on a large scale. And finally, continuously monitoring the performance of AI systems is key. You have to make adjustments based on the data if you want to succeed in the long run.
Now, the information that you shared also included some pretty impressive statistics about AI's impact, both now and what's predicted for the future.
The numbers really do tell a story about AI's rapid growth and its increasing importance to the economy. For instance, one report says that 77% of companies are either using AI technologies or exploring them. And a survey found that over a third of organizations have already implemented AI in some way, which represents a huge increase in just a few years.
Wow, that's a pretty high adoption rate. What about the overall economic impact?
The global AI market is expected to keep growing rapidly, with a projected annual growth rate of almost 36% in the coming years. And experts predict that AI could contribute trillions of dollars to the global economy in the next few years. But here's something that I found interesting. Even though almost all companies are investing in AI, only a tiny percentage believe they're really using it to its full potential. So we're still just scratching the surface of what's possible with this technology.
And what about the impact on jobs? That's always a big question when we talk about AI.
The projections suggest that AI could replace a certain percentage of jobs globally, but it's also going to create new roles. This means that it's essential to focus on retraining and helping the workforce adapt to these changes. Something else that I found interesting is that a huge percentage of organizations are already tracking their return on investment in AI, which really highlights the focus on tangible results.
So a really dynamic and fast-changing landscape with tremendous potential, but also some big shifts coming our way. Let's maybe drill down a little bit more into how AI is impacting business operations. You've outlined both the benefits and the risks.
On the positive side, AI offers huge potential for efficiency and productivity. By automating those repetitive tasks, it frees up human employees to focus on more strategic and creative work. It also can improve decision-making. Because AI can analyze these vast data sets quickly and accurately, it can lead to more informed choices for the business, and of course, cost savings. AI can really optimize how resources are used and reduce the need for manual labor in many areas. And we can't forget the customer experience. AI can personalize interactions and even anticipate customer needs, leading to greater satisfaction. And finally, AI can drive innovation. It can help design new products, identify new trends, and help businesses stay ahead of the curve.
So some really compelling advantages for businesses to consider, but what about the potential downsides? What are some of the risks they need to be aware of when they're thinking about using AI?
One of the biggest risks is over-reliance on these systems. AI is very powerful, but right now it doesn't have that human intuition or ethical judgment that's so important in certain situations. And becoming too dependent on it could lead to some bad decisions. Cybersecurity is also a big concern. AI can strengthen security in some areas, but it can also create new vulnerabilities that hackers can exploit. And we talked about job displacement. That's something that businesses need to be mindful of as well. And finally, we have to be really careful about bias. If the data that's used to train AI systems is biased, then the AI can perpetuate those biases, leading to unfair or discriminatory outcomes.
So it sounds like a very careful and well thought out approach is really essential when you're integrating AI into any business. Now let's move on to the critical topic of cybersecurity. In today's increasingly digital world, it's more important than ever to make sure that our systems and data are protected.
Absolutely. You can't really have digital transformation without robust cybersecurity. And the information you shared highlights just how important that link is, especially financially. Global spending on digital transformation is predicted to hit some pretty huge numbers in the coming years. And as we use more and more digital systems, the need for strong cybersecurity measures grows. And for organizations, this can be a significant investment.
It's a big investment for sure, but clearly it's something that companies can't afford to ignore. What are some key steps that organizations should be taking to ensure that they have good cybersecurity in place, especially as they go through this digital transformation?
The first step is to really understand their current security situation. That means doing a comprehensive assessment of their current setup and identifying any weak spots. Now, for a lot of organizations, especially those that don't have a lot of in-house expertise, using managed security services can give them a much stronger level of protection. They also need to implement advanced cybersecurity technologies to protect their infrastructure. And one of the most important things, perhaps the most important, is educating employees. Teaching them about cybersecurity best practices so they can prevent those breaches that are caused by human error. And finally, it's essential to have continuous monitoring in place and well-defined procedures for responding to incidents so they can catch threats quickly and address them effectively.
And we also have to be thinking ahead, right? And considering those new cybersecurity threats that are coming from things like quantum computing.
Yes, that's a really important point. Quantum computers could one day break the encryption methods that we rely on today. And that's a serious long-term cybersecurity threat. So we need to be proactive and invest in research to develop new algorithms that are resistant to quantum attacks so that our data stays safe in the future.
Now, finally, let's talk about ensuring equitable access to the next generation of connectivity, things like 6G. It's so important that these advancements don't just benefit a select few, and that they actually help to bridge the digital divide.
You're absolutely right. The sources that you've gathered really stress that ensuring everyone has access to 6G technology is not just a technical challenge, it's a social imperative. And there are a lot of policy initiatives that are already in motion to address this. For example, they're focusing on gathering input and developing policies that specifically support 6G development, with a big emphasis on inclusivity. Affordability is key. They want to make sure 6G is accessible, and that the necessary infrastructure is built in underserved communities. Promoting reliable internet access in all areas is another top priority, and they recognize the need for a comprehensive policy framework, one that addresses not only access, but also privacy and security in a way that's fair and equitable.
So what are some specific actions that policymakers can take to really promote equitable access to 6G for everyone?
Well, first and foremost, they need to create policies that prioritize digital equity and access for all communities, and they need to back that up with investment. Allocate funds to build 6G infrastructure, especially in those underserved areas. Collaboration with industry partners is also going to be crucial. That way they can drive innovation and the rollout of 6G technology, and they need to keep an eye on the big picture. Continuously monitor the impact of these policies and be ready to adjust them as needed. That way they can make sure they're actually achieving that goal of equitable access.
So, what does all of this mean for you, our listener? We've covered a lot of ground today, from the amazing potential of quantum computing to the practical uses of AR and VR in education. We talked about the impact of AI on our jobs, the constant need for strong cybersecurity, and the importance of ensuring that everyone benefits from future technologies like 6G.
What's really fascinating is that these aren't just theoretical concepts anymore. These technologies are actively shaping the world around us. They're influencing how we learn, how we work, and how we connect with each other. And the strategies we've talked about, they give you a glimpse into how different organizations are approaching these changes. But the challenges we discussed, they remind us that progress isn't always easy or predictable.
As you think about all these incredible advancements, what area do you think will have the biggest impact on your field or on your own personal interests? The tech landscape is constantly evolving, and we hope that this deep dive has given you a clear perspective on the forces that are shaping our future.